Hey, tonight we brush dust from ancient scrolls beneath a blood-orange sunset. The air is hot and dry, heavy with the scent of baked limestone and something almost sweet, maybe lotus. You kneel at the edge of a half-buried tomb near the Nile, the sand slipping around your fingers like powdered gold. In your hands, a fragile roll of papyrus. It crackles softly as you unfurl it, revealing rows of black ink and crimson lines. Figures of gods with jackal heads and sun discs, spells coiled. Around their forms like snakes around a staff. You're holding a copy of the Book of the Dead. Except that's not what the Egyptians called it. They would have called it something far more poetic. The Book of Coming Forth by Day. A guidebook, really. A spiritual travel manual meant to help the dead navigate the afterlife with grace, confidence, and, ideally, no encounters with Hippo. Demons, you'll probably learn a lot from this story, so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. Press the notification bell to update many new videos. And hey, drop a comment with your location and local time. We'd love to know who's listening around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You kneel inside the low-bellied tomb chamber, and the world above melts away. The air cools, smells older. You raise the torch and glance around walls covered in paintings. Hieroglyphs marching in lines like little armies of symbols. A jackal-headed god grins down at you. An ibis-headed one gestures at a set of scales. And there, above it all, a winged goddess spreads her arms wide across the ceiling. This is no ordinary grave. It's a gateway. Burial in ancient Egypt wasn't just about laying someone to rest, it was about preparing for the next life like a boss. You weren't just dead, you were traveling, and not just to anywhere. You were headed to a complicated, bureaucratic afterlife full of gods who judged you, gates that required passwords, and monsters who were very into snacking on unworthy souls. Lucky for you, the scroll in your hands is full of spells and instructions. Some sound a bit dramatic. Spell for not dying a second time in the underworld. But hey, better safe than swallowed by a demon with 4 heads and a serpent tail. Historians still argue whether these spells were intended to be literal instructions or more symbolic, kind of like a spiritual resume. But either way, the Egyptians took them seriously. Even regular folk, scribes, farmers, even beer brewers had their own versions of these scrolls tucked inside their coffins, usually bought pre-written and filled in with their names like cosmic Mad Libs. But let's rewind a second. Picture yourself not as a modern explorer, but as an elite scribe in the 18th dynasty. Around 1300 BCE, your client, someone important, has died. Your job is to write their Book of the Dead. You've got ink made of soot and gum, a brush from a palm stalk, and hundreds of lines to copy with no mistakes. One misspelled spell. That's a one-way ticket to oblivion. As you sit cross-legged on a reed mat, you glance toward the Westerland of the dead. The sun is sinking behind the desert cliffs, disappearing like Ra, himself descending into the underworld. You know the journey well. First come the funerary rituals, the opening of the mouth, the purification, the perfume-soaked bandages. But beneath the rituals lies the real preparation, the words, the magic. Each line of the Book of the Dead is meant to protect the soul. The condide, the bar, that's the personality part, to reunite with the body at dawn. A little fringe tidbit. In some versions of the book, there's even a spell to let you transform into various animals like a swallow, a snake, or even a sacred lotus flower. You know, in case you need to sneak past a gate or hide from a crocodile with anger issues, you close your eyes. You're not in the tomb anymore. You're lying in linen wrappings, inside a carved wooden coffin, sealed inside a stone sarcophagus, deep beneath a mountain of rock and offerings. It's dark. Your heart doesn't beat, and yet, you're not gone, not yet, because just above you, painted in glowing pigments on the tomb ceiling, are stars, tiny flecks of gold that mirror the sky outside. A map, a promise, and next to you, tucked into your wrappings, is the scroll. Your scroll, it's time to use it. You recite the first words from the book. Your voice is like wind in a cavern. I have not lied, I have not stolen, I have not slain men unjustly. It's called the Negative Confession 42 Declarations of Innocence. Imagine it as your cosmic checklist before judgment. And yes, one of the items is, I have not eaten my heart. Don't ask, some scholars believe this was less about truth and more about aspiration, way to become virtuous by declaring it. Others think it was a straight-up legal defense before the gods, who, let's be honest, were probably grading on a curve. And just as you speak the last word, something shifts. You rise, not your body, but something lighter. The bar bird with your face stretches its wings. You look down at yourself, wrapped and sealed, and feel calm. The journey has begun. Outside your tomb, the desert is silent. But inside, the scroll unfurls a little further. Somewhere, in a world hidden beneath the western horizon, Osiris is watching, and he's expecting you. The air hums, thick and slow, as if sound itself must push through layers of eternity. You float, not fly, not fall, but drift like a leaf caught between waking and dreaming. Above, the sky is ink black, studded with stars that don't twinkle, they watch. Below, the earth rolls out in shadowed dunes and ghostly ruins, quiet as a tomb. And then, you feel it. A presence. He's here, Osiris, the god of the dead, lord of the underworld, green-skinned and serene, wrapped like a mummy in regal linen, wearing that tall white crown with the ostrich feathers. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. His presence is like gravity, a silent pull, a king who rules without question. You feel your heart tightened, not with fear, exactly, but the kind of nervous energy you get when you're about to meet your partner's parents for the first time, and you know they already checked your entire Instagram history. Osiris doesn't judge you here, not yet. He's just ... waiting. Behind him rise the black gates of Duat, the Egyptian underworld. They shimmer faintly, pulsing with light like embers beneath the sand. You realize that what you thought was stone is alive with the names of gods, creatures, and forgotten kings. The gates don't creak. They breathe, and then they open. You pass through. Inside Duat, night wraps around you like velvet. The air smells of incense and salt, lotus and something older. The stars are closer now, moving in slow spirals above your head like lazy dancers. Somewhere in the distance, a jackal howls, high and mournful. This is the start of your trial. No. One tells you where to go. The book in your hand, it glows faintly now, its symbols shifting with each step, as if it knows the route better than you do. You follow its direction, stepping onto a narrow causeway suspended over a lake of black glass. On either side, statues rise, crocodiles with human hands, lions with eagle wings, a baboon with a scribe's palette. You don't know their names, but they know yours. Here's the mainstream historical fact. The Book of the Dead wasn't one unified scroll. It was a mix of about 200 spells, gathered and personalized for each person. Some people could only afford a few. Others had full papyrus, tomes that stretched over 70 feet long. The wealthier you were in life, the better equipped you were for death, kind of like booking business class for the apocalypse. But the thing no one agrees on, whether everyone actually believed it all. Historians still argue whether the average Egyptians saw this as literal afterlife navigation, or more of a poetic tribute to tradition, like a spiritual GPS, or an eternal best-of playlist. Back on the path, your steps echo across the obsidian. Shapes move under the surface, low, deliberate. You don't look down too long. You remember the scroll's warnings. Do not fall into the lake of knives. Yikes. A wind picks up. It's not cold, but it's pointed, like someone whispering, against your neck. You glance sideways, and there he is, Anubis. He's taller than you expected, sleek and silent. A jackal's head, glossy black fur, eyes that shine like coins pulled from deep water. He gives the slightest nod, professional, like a TSA agent scanning your bags for cursed amulets. He gestures forward. You follow him through a grove of golden reeds. The ground glows faintly beneath your feet, lighting up hieroglyphs with each step. Your name, your deeds, your secrets. You hope no one reads them aloud. Suddenly you hear music, faint and strange, like flutes played underwater. Ahead, a procession, spirits of the dead walking in silence, each carrying an item from their life: a loaf of bread, a pot, a cat. One ghostly woman clutches a mirror, holding it close like a talisman. She passes you and smiles. Her face is youthful, but her eyes have seen thousands of sunsets. You wonder what you brought. The book, of course. But is it enough? Remember, this journey isn't just about reaching a place. It's about becoming someone worthy of arriving. That's what the Egyptians believed, that the soul had to be purified, shaped by the tests it faced. The book doesn't just guide you. It transforms you. A little-known tidbit. Some versions of the book include spells to help you become a god. Not just survive the afterlife, but ascend, merge with Ra, or blend into the stars, or live forever in the sunlight. Ambitious stuff. Egyptians didn't dream small. Ahead, you see it. A vast door carved into the side of a canyon wall. It's covered in snake motifs and guarded by two creatures with swords for tongues. No biggie. Your book glows against spell 17. This one's for entering the house of Osiris without being chewed on. Very specific, very useful. You read aloud that the guardians lower their swords. The door opens. Inside is the Hall of Truth, where Matt rules. You're not being judged yet, but you can feel the place preparing for it. Pillars line the chamber, each carved with names you can't pronounce. Pharaohs, long gone, queens who once ruled like gods, children buried with toys and spells. You realize something profound here. Every soul walks this road alone, but the road is made of everyone's footsteps. You are not the first. You will not be the last. Something inside you, STEADIES.OSIRIS, is not your enemy. He's your mirror. And so you step forward into the next passage, where your body will be prepared, your spirit awakened, and your path unfolded spell by spell, charm by charm. The scroll rustles in your hand like it's breathing with you, and the next chapter is already waiting. You feel it first in your nostrils, that sharp, oddly floral sting of resin and spices, thick in the air like incense left too long on a coal burner. The passage narrows into a chamber glowing with torchlight, and there, in the center of it all, lies you. Well, your body, wrapped in linen strips, padded with natron salt, carefully arranged in an elegant, slightly stiff pose, arms crossed, hands curled just so. The embalmers have done their job. You've become a sacred bundle, swaddled like royalty, though a little less dignified beneath the bandages. Someone definitely forgot to reposition your left foot. This is where the ritual begins. You hover above, unseen, as a group of white-robed priests circle your body. Their chant rises in slow, rhythmic pulses. One of them holds a hooked instrument. He inserts it delicately into your nose, and, well, you don't want to watch this next part. Let's just say your brain's being removed the ancient way, which is to say, one scoop at a time, see, in ancient Egypt. The heart was considered the seat of intelligence and emotion, not the brain. The brain, basically just head filler. Historians still debate whether this was a symbolic act or if they just didn't realize what the brain actually did. Either way, they yanked it out and tossed it. Nice. The priest steps aside, and another takes his place. He rubs your skin with oils, some from cedar, some from sycamore, even frankincense. The body glistens slightly under the firelight. The embalming process takes weeks, 40 days for dehydration, 15 for spices and wrapping. It's less preparing a corpse and more prepping a very fussy divine statue. Meanwhile, your internal organs, liver, stomach, lungs, intestines, are already in canopic jars beside the body. They each have their own protective deity, falcon, baboon, jackal, and human. Like a slightly more disturbing version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You'll need them intact to navigate the afterlife. But here's a quirky little fringe tidbit. In some tombs, archaeologists found fake organs, just bundles of linen soaked in resin, stuffed into the jars instead of the real stuff. Budget cuts, clerical error, or a spiritual loophole. We may never know that the embalmer priests begin the opening of the mouth ceremony. A golden adze touches your lips. A whispered spell, you shall eat, you shall speak, you shall see the gods, and then silence, a moment so quiet it rings in your ears. The body is ready, you, the soul, feel pulled gently, as if by tide or thought. You're drifting again, through perfumed smoke and flickering firelight, into the back of the chamber. Their shelves hold hundreds of items meant to accompany you. Sandals, combs, carved wooden servants, even food offerings sealed in clay pots. Everything you might need in the afterlife, including a board game, because apparently even eternity gets boring. But some items are stranger. You spot a dried-out crocodile dung bulb-leaved to protect against evil spirits. There's also a magic brick with a tiny figurine inside a spell in physical form. One funerary mask is inlaid with gold and lapis lazuli. Another is clearly painted in a rush, one eye slightly larger than the other, giving it a perpetual "why am I here?" expression. You chuckle softly. The book's teachings say preparation is everything, but not everyone gets the deluxe package. Still, it's the intention that matters. That's what scholars often debate, whether it was the physical artifacts or the symbolic meaning that carried weight. Were those tiny servant figurines supposed to magically come alive and work your fields in paradise? Or were they just reminders that you were someone who expected to be served? The wrappings are nearly done now. Layer after layer of linen soaked in gum and resin, bound tightly over your limbs, chest, and face. The smell is dizzying, warm, earthy, and sweet, like incense melting in the sun. Then come the amulets. So many tiny charms slipped between bandages. Like spiritual armor, there's the Eye of Horus protection, the Jed pillar stability, the Scarab beetle renewal and transformation. Each one placed precisely on the body, aligned with joints, organs, or chakras. This isn't random, it's divine geometry. And yes, you've got the big one, the Heart Scarab. It's placed right over your chest, inscribed with spell 3-0, the basically, a legal warning to your heart. Don't betray me during judgment. Because if your heart confesses your sins at the scales of Matt, that's it, game over. No pressure. The wrapping finishes with a final red thread tied across your chest, a symbolic seal to keep evil out, or possibly in. Honestly, both seem plausible at this point. One of the priests steps forward with a gold mask. He lowers it gently onto your face. It's not just for looks, it's meant to preserve your identity in the afterlife. You'll need that face when you meet the gods. They don't do name tags. With a final chant, they lower your wrapped form into a black painted coffin carved with protective spells. Another coffin will go around that one, then a third. Egyptians loved layers. You've officially become the spiritual equivalent of a nesting doll. And then the lid closes. Darkness, but it's not the end. Not by a long shot. Because now only Noah, you equipped. Your body is prepared. Your soul is awake. Your book of the dead is tucked beside you, rolled and sealed, waiting like a travel pass. It's time to leave the tomb. Time to rise. The linen around your limbs feels light now, like a second skin. You step through the veils of smoke and memory, out of the embalming chamber and into a wide tunnel carved from rock. The walls are painted in ochre and turquoise, scenes of boats and birds and lotus blooms. You pass your own name painted a dozen times. You pass spells you barely remember writing, and somewhere in the far distance, the next test is waiting. A ripple in the air, a flutter in your chest. Something stirs. You're not alone anymore. Your bar is ready to fly. You feel the pull not from the earth, but from within, like a tug behind your ribs, gentle and insistent. Your body lies wrapped, preserved, silent. But your boreal spirit, your soul bird, is stretching its wings for the first time, and it is strange the bar isn't just your ghost. It's the part of you that laughs at inside jokes, that craves honey cakes, that holds grudges about who skipped your birthday last year. It is you, but free of flesh and bone. And right now, it's fluttering in the half-darkness above your tomb. Confused but determined, your feet hover inches above the stone floor. You look down and realize you are no longer fully solid. Your hands are your own, but your arms shimmer. Like water, feathers ripple along your shoulders. You blink, and for a moment, your face has wings. Welcome to the afterlife's middle layer. Physics takes a long nap. The bar flaps once, experimentally. The air here is dense and rich, smelling of myrrh and dust. A thin gold thread trails from your chest, connecting you still to your preserved body below. That tether will remain, anchoring you until you're fully reborn or utterly lost in the darkness. A breeze stirs. You soar upward. The tomb's ceiling seems to peel away like a painted curtain, revealing a star-speckled sky. But these stars don't twinkle, they speak. Each one hums softly, a note in an eternal song. You realize you are flying through Nut, the sky goddess herself, her body arched across the heavens, arms and legs cradling the earth, her skin studded with constellations. Below, the Nile glows faintly, winding like a silver serpent through the black sands. You recognize Thebes by the glint of its temple roofs, long buried but somehow still shining in the afterlife's mirror world. Now you begin the boss task. Retrace the moments of your life. Remember who you were. Gather yourself piece by piece so you can face the trials ahead. You descend into a dream version of your village. Your house is theirs, smaller than you remember, but filled with familiar smells. Fresh bread, clay dust, the oil you used to rub on sore shoulders. You pass through it like mist, and every object calls to you: a reed pen, a worn cloak, a cat curled by the fire, long since gone. The bar absorbs these memories like a sponge, fattening with remembrance. Here's the historical nugget. Ancient Egyptians believed the bar had to return to the body every night to rest. Otherwise it could wither and fade. That's why tombs were built with sleeping places, benches, painted beds, even little carved stools so the bar would feel welcome to visit. Hospitality didn't end with death, but not all bar flights were cozy trips down memory lane. As you soar farther, the landscape shifts. You glide over a half-ruined temple where a priest chants a spell to protect a mummy from being eaten by snakes. You pause in a field where jackals dig up the wrong tomb, disturbed by thieves searching for gold. You spiral around a crumbling statue whose eyes blink ever so slightly. Even after 3,000 years of silence, not every spirit moves on. Some stay, some hover. A little-known tidbit: some versions of the Book of the Dead include spells to ward off other spirits, not demons, but the angry dead. Apparently, not everyone gets over being embalmed with too much resin. Grudges carry you, though, are still gathering your strength. The book's next spell glows faintly in your hand. It's for uniting the bar and the car, so they may live together in peace. Think of it as spiritual team building. The car is your life force, the divine spark gifted at birth. The bar is your personality. If they don't get along, bad afterlife. You land in a dream garden lush, eternal, oddly symmetrical. Palm trees sway despite no wind. Pools of water mirror the sky. Here, your car waits come, radiant, expressionless. It looks like you, but more idealized. Like you on a day when your skin was perfect and your posture finally did what your yoga teacher begged. It does not speak. It simply is. You sit across from it. The wind quiets. You read the spell aloud, and for a moment you feel every heartbeat you've ever had. Every hug, every mistake, every burst of laughter in a courtyard. You remember the way your mother sang off-key, the taste of onions in lentil stew, the thrill of writing your name in perfect hieroglyphs. The car nods, you are whole. The garden shimmers and dissolves. You're in the air again, lighter now, glowing, slightly, like embers carried on the breeze. You look down at your hands, they've stopped flickering. Your wings have softened into robes. You are becoming more real. The path ahead is no longer a void. It is marked stone markers, shaped like ankhs, glowing with a soft blue light. You follow them. You're being guided now not by a god, but by your own readiness. The trials are close. You can feel them like heat before a flame. Historians still argue whether the bar's journey was meant to be read as literal or symbolic. Was it a true part of the afterlife mythos, or just a poetic metaphor for processing death? Either way, The Egyptians wrote about it in such vivid detail that you feel every moment. The wind beneath your wings, the echoes of laughter from a forgotten home, the dizzy shimmer of the stars. You land on a causeway surrounded by darkness. A torch flickers to life. The book turns its page without you touching it. The next spell is already humming. Your journey's next step, navigating threats not of memory or soul but of fangs, flames, and questions only your true name can answer. The torchlight flickers, casting your shadow long and lean against the obsidian wall. You step forward, the papyrus in your hand glowing softly. The hieroglyphs shimmer with meaning. They're not just ink anymore. They breathe. Every word on the scroll is a spell, a defense, a breadcrumb trail laid out for moments just like this. You're not alone. A hiss slices through the silence. Not the kind of hiss you hear from a cat or a boiling kettle, but something deeper, older. You pause. Breath held. Another hiss closer now. You squint into the dark, and there it is, slithering forward from the gloom. A serpent as thick as your thigh, black as soot, eyes gleaming like rubies soaked in oil. Great, you knew this was coming. Egyptians were very concerned about snakes in the afterlife. The Book of the Dead devotes dozens of spells just to keeping them away. Some are polite, begone, O fanged one. Some are not, I will cut you with the knife of Ra. And some are just oddly specific, like the spell titled For, preventing a snake from spitting poison into your eye during sunrise. You're not making that up. Luckily, you came prepared. The spell you need is spell 33, to repel the snake which lives in the fire. You speak it aloud in a low, steady voice. The snake halts. It rises, flicks its tongue, and hovers in the air for a breathless moment, then lowers itself and slithers backward into the shadows. Crisis averted. You keep walking. Around you, scribes are depicted on the walls carving words onto papyrus. Scrolls, lips moving in mid-chant. These are not mere decorations. These are echoes, fragments of those who came before, who spent lifetimes recording these words so the dead wouldn't wander blindly. A mainstream historical note here. The Book of the Dead wasn't written by one person or at one time. It evolved over nearly 1,500 years, from pyramid walls to coffin lids to full-blown illustrated scrolls, especially during the New Kingdom period. It was personalized, edited, and often mixed with regional traditions, like a cosmic patchwork quilt, with protective spells against beetle-headed demons. Speaking of which, you step through a doorway into a vast chamber and freeze. The room is alive, or rather, the things in it are. Eyes blink from the darkness. Shapes shift. You see them all around you, figures of gods, part animal, part human. Some squat, some tall, some made entirely of fire. One has a face on its knees. Another has snakes for fingers. Welcome to the land of the twisted forms. These creatures aren't evil, they're guardians. Each one demands proof that you belong. You won't fight them, not exactly. You have to answer their questions. Give their names. Say the words they expect. If you don't, well, let's not find out. You approach the first gate. A door blocks your path. A guardian with the head of a bull and the tail of a scorpion steps forward. His voice is like stone grinding on stone. Name me, he says. You check the scroll. The hieroglyphs shift under your eyes, and you murmur. You are he who counts. The creature smiles, and the gate opens. Weirdly specific, but hey, accuracy matters. This section of the book is often called the spells for going out by demeaning you. The deceased are trying to emerge victorious and rejoin the land of the living, or at least the land of the eternally content. Each gate, each guardian, each riddle is another test, and each has a spell to accompany it. Some scholars still debate whether this entire part was a psychological journey, facing one's fears, doubts, regrets, or if the Egyptians imagined these monsters as actual entities in the afterlife, considering they sometimes drew them with extra arms growing from their ears. It might have been both. You pass gate after gate, each one stranger than the last. One demands you name the color of the sky on the first day of creation. Answer, lapis lazuli flame. Another asks how many jars were in your embalming chamber. You whisper for thank goodness for those canopic buddies. Eventually, you reach a long sloping corridor carved from green stone. At its end, a massive bronze door pulses with red light. Your scroll glows furiously now. You hold it up and find a line you hadn't noticed before. It's written in a messier hand, almost like someone added it later. Beware the scribe who ink without soul. What? Suddenly, a shadow slides across the floor. You turn. A figure emerges from behind a pillar. He looks like you, but not quite. Same height, same face, same linen robe, but his eyes are empty. You recognize him. This is your false self. Some versions of the book mention this. A double who emerges if the dead were buried with an incomplete or flawed text. A copycat born from errors. A kind of spiritual identity thief. He steps forward, whispering the exact same spells as you. Word for word, he's trying to replace you. You take a step back, heart pounding. Then you remember a fringe spell at the back of your book. One rarely used, half reaced in most scrolls. Spell for proving the self and burning the false name. It's tricky. The words must be spoken perfectly. You begin. The false you tries to echo, but you change one line. You replace a name with a memory or father's voice calling you at dusk. The false one falters. You speak again, adding another personal truth, your favorite food as a child, a scar only you had, a nickname whispered by someone you loved. The double begins to flicker. With a final line, you name yourself, not just your public name, but your true name, the one known only to the gods. He vanishes in a puff of ash. The bronze door creaks open. You exhale. That one was close. Not everyone passes this part of the journey. Some get trapped by their own errors. Others forget the words, but you remembered. And the path forward is clear again. You step through the bronze door and feel a warmth you haven't felt in ages. Something ahead is shining. It smells like sunlight. The warmth grows as you step forward, a slow golden bloom that wraps around your chest and radiates through your arms. It's not heat like fire, it's gentler, deeper, like sunlight on your face after a long winter, or the comfort of a voice you haven't heard in years. You've reached a place of transformation. The chamber ahead opens wide, its walls carved from limestone, veined with gold, glowing softly like candlelit honey. In its center, your coffin waits. The outer casing is closed, sealed with wax and sacred symbols. But something inside it stirs. This isn't a trick of memory or dream. This is reunion. You drift downward. Your bar still feathered and radiant, trailing faint motes of blue light. The tether between you and your body still preserved and wrapped. Below beates to tighten its time to return. You lower yourself gently onto the coffin, Your hands pass through the wood, and then through the inner layers, through the linen, through the wrappings, until, at last, you settle into yourself. Not quite the same as before, heavier, more complete. You feel your limbs again, not as flesh and bone, but as spirit wrapped in memory. Your fingers tingle with power. The amulets pulse against your skin, nor whatever passes for skin now. The book in your hand glows white-hot, then cools, resting quietly beside your form, your whole, and you're not alone. A murmur fills the air. The walls themselves begin to shimmer, and from them emerge figures, not just spirits, but guides, deities, in half-human forms, familiar and strange. One has a lioness's head and glowing amber eyes, Sekhmet, fierce protector. Another is bent with age, but carries a scroll nearly as tall as himself, Thoth, the divine scribe. They nod at you, respectful, but not warm. They are not here to comfort you. They are here to test you. You stand, a little unsteady at first. Your linen wrappings slough away as if blown by a breeze, revealing a gleaming form beneath, part shadow, part gold. You feel each spell woven into your being, every charm, every word, every name spoken correctly. This is the armor of the justified, and now you'll need it. The gods part, revealing a hallway with no floor-only stars, glittering beneath your feet like scattered salt across an endless void. You step onto it, you do not fall. With each footfall, a slab of stone appears just before you land. You walk a path that exists only as you believe in it. The book names this place the Celestial River. Egyptians believed that in the afterlife, the soul would sail on a spiritual Nile that cut through the stars. It wasn't just water, it was Ra's daily path, lit by fire, shadowed by snakes, and guarded by spirits of time itself. That's where you're headed now, and there it is. The river. You step onto a boat, unlike any you've seen, long, narrow, painted in green and gold. Its prow is shaped like a papyrus bloom, and its stern curls upward like the tail of a cobra. There's no crew, just you, and oars that move on their own. You begin to drift. The stars wheel above you, below the water. Reflects not your face, but scenes from your life, your happiest days, your worst regrets. You see a moment when you stole a loaf of bread, another when you gave a stranger your only blanket. The river remembers everything, but so does your book. You open it, spell 110, to sail safely on the celestial waters. You recite it softly, like a lullaby. The boat steadies. A ripple passes under it, and then you see them, creatures just beneath the surface. Not fish, not serpents, things they swirl and twist, their eyes glowing. Some are crocodile-headed, others scorpion. One looks like a human baby with jackal ears and a disturbingly adult grin. You grip the scroll tighter. Another ripple. This one stronger, and then, rising from the water like a bad dream soaked in oil. A serpent the size of a temple arches over your boat. Its eyes are the color of fire opal. Its teeth curve inward like hooks. It hisses not like a threat, but like a riddle it's daring you to get wrong. This is Apophis, the chaos serpent, not a demon of the dead, but a cosmic force of undoing. Even Ra fears him. Every night, Ra must fight him to be reborn at dawn. And tonight, you're riding with Ra. Your boat begins to burn not with fire, but with light. The serpent strikes, but you raise your voice. Spell 39, to repel the snake Apophis, who swallows souls. Your voice is clear, stronger than before. I am the flame, I am the day. I am the spear of the gods who pierce the heart of the night. The serpent shrieks, recoils, and vanishes in a burst of light. The river calms. The boat glides forward, and in the distance the stars shift. You see something blooming on the horizon. It looks like a field, but it's not any field. The air grows warmer. The smell of grain, of sugarcane and date palms rushes. To meet you, your boat slows. You are arriving now. Here's something curious. A little fringe idea among Egyptologists. Some believe the field of reeds wasn't just paradise, it was farming, but perfect farming. Eternal harvests, no droughts, no back pain. You'd get to do the work you knew, but with all the rough parts edited out. No bugs, no supervisors, just sunshine and plenty. It was heaven, but still home. Your boat reaches the bank. You step onto solid ground, lush and green, swaying gently in an unfelt breeze in the distance. A figure waves. You don't recognize them, but something in your chest stirs. A memory, maybe, or a promise. You begin walking toward them, but before you reach them, the wind changes. The scroll in your hand flutters wildly. A page turns on its own, and your next trial unfolds in crimson ink. The page curls in your hand, its crimson ink pulsing like a heartbeat. The warmth of the field of reeds flickers, still present, but just out of reach, like a dream fading before dawn. The grass beneath your feet thins. The sky, once brushed in gold, fades into deep cobalt. Stars blink overhead again, this time slower, more deliberate. You are not finished, not yet. The book hums with a new spell, one that feels older than the others, less of a command, more of a question. A trial of presence. You turn to find yourself standing at the edge of a river, not the Nile, but something colder. Its waters are dark and still, reflecting not your face, but your past, and across the water, a figure, tall, serene, and very, very familiar. You recognize him instantly, Osiris, seated on a throne of polished black stone, surrounded by lotus flowers and stars carved into the very air around him. He radiates the quiet intensity of a man who's been dead forever, and is perfectly fine with it. Beside him stands Isis, her wings drawn behind her like a veil of silk, and Nephthys, her sister, half-shadowed and unreadable. And to the left, silent and alert, Anubis, still watching, still weighing. This is no dream. This is the Hall of Mat. Your heart skips, literally. You feel it flutter in your chest, heavier than before. That's because it's no longer metaphorical. Your actual heart chore, your moral center is about to be put on the scale. Welcome to judgment. In the center of the chamber, suspended in golden air, stands the scales of Mat, balanced perfectly on a horizontal beam. On one side, the feather of truth, white and impossibly light, sacred to Mart, goddess of balance and cosmic order. On the other side, your heart, it pulses once. You feel it respond to every memory you've ever tried to bury. That time you lied, that time you looked away, that time you loved someone and didn't say it. It knows everything. The scroll vibrates in your hands. It flips to spell 125, the most famous spell of all, the declaration of innocence before the gods. You step forward. 42 judges surround you now, each representing a different law, virtue, or city. They stare with eyes made of obsidian and lapis. One looks like a snake, one like a crocodile. One has no face at all. They demand your confessions, not your sins, but your denials. You must declare what you have not done, I have not stolen. I have not killed unjustly. I have not defiled sacred waters. I have not cheated in measurements of grain. I have not raised my voice in anger without cause. And yes, I have not eaten my heart. Still no one really knows what that means. Historians still argue whether it's metaphorical for guilt or an actual form of self-cannibalism the Egyptians worried about. Either way, you confidently say you've not done it. As you speak, the judges nod, one by one. The feather glows faintly. Then comes the weighing. Anubis steps forward, slow and silent. He lifts your heart in his gloved hands and places it gently. On the scale, across from it, the feather does not move. A stillness falls so heavy. Even the gods seem to hold their breath. You watch and wait, and then balance. The scale doesn't tip, not even a quiver. You passed. For a second, your knees go weak. But you're not done, not yet, because behind the scales, waiting, is a creature unlike anything you've seen before. AMMIT, part lion, part crocodile, part hippopotamus, the three most dangerous animals in ancient Egypt combined into one nightmare. Her jaws could crush bone, her claws rip stone. She leans forward, sniffing your heart with a low growl of disappointment. Not today, sweetheart. Your heart is spared. You feel a warmth fill your chest, light and pride, and maybe just a tiny bit of smugness. You earned this. The field of reeds calls. But before you go, Osiris speaks. His voice is deep and slow, like water running beneath stone. You are justified, he says, but your journey continues. And just like that, you're standing again, not in the hall, but somewhere else entirely. It's night again, but not like before. The stars here are enormous, glowing like bonfires. You walk across sand that crunches like sugar beneath your feet. You realize something strange. You're being followed. You turn, and behind you is your name. Yes, your name. A string of glowing symbols floating in the air, drifting along like a ghost made of language. Your identity made visible. The book warns about this part. Names were everything to the Egyptians, the foundation of existence. If your name was forgotten, erased, or stolen, your soul could vanish forever. A quirky fact. Tomb robbers didn't just steal gold. They sometimes scratched out names on coffins and walls, trying to erase people from eternity. Savage, you pick up the book again. A new spell appears. Spell for preserving the name in the mouths of the living. You whisper it, voice shaking. The symbols behind you shimmer and brighten, folding into your body like fireflies into a jar. Safe, safe. You move forward in the distance. A boat is waiting, a familiar one. You recognize the prow painted green, with eyes to see the unseen. You're boarding the solar BARQUE. It's time to ride with Ra, but this time you're not a passenger. You're part of the crew. The boat rocks gently as you step aboard, nothing dramatic, no crashing waves or divine trumpets. Just that soft, steady motion like you're being welcomed by something older than time. You're not alone this time. Ra stands at the helm. You'd recognize him anywhere, hawk-headed, radiant, crowned with a sun disk encircled by a cobra. His gaze is like fire filtered through kindness, brilliant but not burning. He nods at you, neither overly warm nor distant, as if to say, you made it. But don't get cocky. He gestures toward a place on the deck. Not near the front, not in the back, just where you fit. You take your spot. The crew surrounds you, guards and spirits, the silent guardians of night. There's Heka, the god of magic, with his twisted staff crackling with energy. Khepri, the scarab-headed deity, rolls a glowing orb across the planks as if pushing dawn itself forward. Even Sire, the personification of divine perception, stands nearby. Eyes closed, and yet somehow seeing everything, you realize something powerful. This bark isn't just a boat, it's the body of Ra, and you are now part of that body. You're sailing across the Duatha Egyptian underworld. Not a fiery pit, not a frozen wasteland. The Duat is something far weirder, more beautiful, and honestly a little trippy. It's a cosmic landscape of endless deserts, upside-down rivers, fire-breathing turtles, and doorways guarded by snake-headed mummies with names like he who makes the horizon scream. Yes, really. The book glows in your hand. You flip the pages as the boat glides forward. Passing the 12 hours of night teach, one a different realm of challenge, renewal and rebirth. First hour, the western horizon, a golden gateway opens. The air thickens with dust and perfume. Spirits line the banks, watching as you pass. Some cheer, some whisper, a few just glare. You clutch the book and keep your eyes ahead. Second hour, the place where the stars weep. The river narrows. You see souls drifting above it, shaped like comets with wings. They mourn something you can't name, but you feel it. A hollow ache in your ribs. You whisper a spell to honor the weepers and, in return, one of them bows deeply to you. Third hour, the desert of knives, nothing but red sand and obsidian blades. The boat must weave through them like thread through needles. One wrong move, and you'll be diced into divine sashimi. You read spell 144 to guide the bark through sharp obstacles. The blades retract. Fourth hour, lake of fireflies. This one's almost pretty. You float across glowing water filled with light and laughter. But then you see the shadows beneath the surface spirits who didn't pass their trials. They cling to the boat's wake, reaching, begging. Ra raises a hand. The boat speeds up. The fireflies return. The shadows fade. Fifth hour, field of knotted time. This one's strange. Everything feels slow. You blink, and the stars are in different positions. You look down, and your feet are no longer yours. They belong to a younger you, or an older one, or someone else entirely. The book warns. Here, memory can become prison. You press your hand to your chest and speak your true name. It grounds you. Time untackles. You pass through. Sixth hour, heart of the serpent. Oh no. You recognize this place. You're inside Apophis again. But this time, it's not an ambush. It's a confrontation. Apophis isn't just a snake. He's the Anti-Ra, the eternal challenger, the unfinished question. His scales stretch across the sky like thunderclouds. His eyes glow from the horizon. Why should you continue? He hisses. Why do you get to ride with gods? Good question. The book doesn't give you a direct answer, just a spell. I am the justified soul. My breath is matte. My step is truth. My purpose is light. You say it, not loud, but with conviction. Apophis trembles and shatters like obsidian struck by sunrise. You exit the serpent. Ra nods again. No smile, just approval. The seventh hour begins. Here, the boat enters the cavern of rebirth. The sun disk dims. Everything goes black. The gods go silent. Even Ra disappears, just gone, like someone pulled the plug on reality. You're alone, or so it feels. This hour is a mystery. Scholars still argue whether it represents death, transformation, or the reset button of the cosmos. One fringe theory, that it mirrors the moment of conception in a human womb, divine pregnancy before rebirth. Creepy, maybe. But kind of poetic. You drift in darkness, unsure if you're floating or sinking. The book turns to a blank page. No spells, just silence. You close your eyes and breathe. Something stirs in your chest, not pain, just surrender. A softening. The world blooms again. Ra returns brighter than ever. You've reached the 8th hour, and beyond it, the final stages of the duat await. 9, 10, 11, each realm waiting with challenges, visions, and final transformations. But for now, you rest your hand on the bark's railing, gaze ahead at the winding river of stars, and feel something new. Not survival, not escape, but belonging. You're no longer a soul trying to pass through the afterlife. You're helping move it. You're getting used to the rhythm, now this strange sacred beat that pulses under the planks of the solar bark. With every passing hour of the duat, your senses grow sharper, your mind stretches, but your body somehow lightens. You've become more than a soul on a journey. You're part of a story that never stops telling itself. 9th hour. This is the hour of the hidden doors. The river bends. Again abruptly, this time, and it flows through a massive stone gate shaped like a jaw, slowly creaking open. Hieroglyphs shimmer along its edges, some familiar, some so ancient they predate human memory. Inside is a narrow passage lined with statues. Each one holds a weapon, spears, sickles, saw-toothed daggers. Their eyes follow you, unblinking. The book opens to a page inscribed in silver, spell for passing the secret portals of the netherworld. You recite it gently, and the statues do nothing. At first, but then a single one turns its head, just a fraction, and nods. The door ahead unlocks without a sound. Ra doesn't look back, but you feel him acknowledge your presence. The duat was built to shake out the unworthy, to grind down the wandering dead. But you're becoming part of the duat's architecture. Still, this is the hour where even seasoned souls falter. The boat glides into a maze. The river itself forks and twists like it's trying to lose you. Shadowy figures appear at the edges, glimpses of your old doubts, regrets, missed chances. One looks a little too much like someone you hurt. One looks a little too much like you. It's not a trap, it's a test. You pull the book tighter. Spell 62 glows on the page, to protect oneself against seeing the double. Your voice trembles, but you get the words out. The shadows recoil. Historians still argue whether this hour represented literal trials of spirit or metaphorical introspection. But when your own shadow tries to bite your ankles, it feels pretty literal. 10th hour, you pass beneath a bridge of flames. The temperature rises, but it doesn't burn. It purifies. This is the hour of becoming. Here, souls take on new shapes, some sprout wings, some grow luminous skin, others vanish entirely. You're offered a choice. The book doesn't tell you what to choose, it just offers a question. What shape best carries your truth? No wrong answers, supposedly, but no instructions either. You think, not wings, not flame. You choose your current form. But with one addition, your heart glowing visibly, beating softly outside your chest, an exposed symbol of your passage, vulnerable, sure, but honest. The gods seem pleased. Ra, still no smile. But there's definitely a flicker of amusement in those falcon eyes. Now comes the 11th hour. You didn't expect this. The river vanishes. You're on dry land again. The boat floats in air, gliding over a desert scattered with bones. Not just human bones, animal, spirit, cosmic. One rib the size of a temple, a femur with stars painted on it. This is the valley of past creations. Everything Ra ever made, then unmade, lies here. Failed worlds, abandoned dreams, even gods that didn't survive version 1. It's both breathtaking and terrifying. You step off the boat, your feet crunch on stardust. The book warns, speak no words of judgment here, only reverence. So, you stay quiet. A fringe theory from some Egyptologists suggests this hour represented the gods' own insecurities, their willingness to admit error, to show that divinity didn't mean perfection. The creation is messy, it's surprisingly relatable. You come to a statue half buried in sand. It looks like a lion, but with an oddly human smile. A name is carved beneath it, but time has worn it away. You whisper, "May your name be remembered." The statue crumbles, gently dash gratefully. A warm wind passes, and now the 12th hour. The final gate, you reboard the bark. Ra is no longer at the helm. He's in the center now, curled in fetal form inside a glowing orb. He is the sun at its weakest dot, midnight sun. This is the hour where Ra dies, only to be reborn, every single night, forever. It's not a tragedy, it's the engine of existence. The gods form a circle round him. You join them, together, you chant softly, a mantra as old as the Nile's first drop. The book opens to its last spell for transforming into one who is transfigured in the bark of millions. You recite it without needing to read. Light pours from Ra's orb. The bark rises. You shoot upward through the final cavern, through the vault of stars, through a horizon that burns like the first. Morning ever born. You break through. The sky explodes in gold. You're no longer in the duat. You're above it. Ra is reborn. The sun surges across the sky, and you rise with it, your name intact, your heart balanced, your purpose awakened from below. The duat fades into mist, preparing itself for the next soul, brave enough to journey through. But you're entering a different realm now, a realm not of tests, but of choices. You don't land so much as unfold into the next place. The light fades from blinding gold to soft amber, like the sun slipping through linen curtains. The boat settles, no longer gliding across the duat, but drifting through something quieter, calmer, greener. This is the field of reeds, also known as Aarau. It looks familiar, suspiciously so. The wind smells like your childhood, though you can't quite place where you were. There are crops stretching endlessly in all directions, glistening in golden sunlight. Waterways wind through the landscape, dotted with lotus flowers, just perfect enough to look like they were drawn by a divine architect with OCD. No walls, no fear, just space. The Book of the Dead doesn't just describe this place, it aches for it. Every spell, every challenge, every rebuke of the wicked was written with this destination in mind. You've arrived at the ancient Egyptian version of paradise, but here's the twist. It's not a place of eternal rest. It's a place of eternal purpose. You step off the boat and onto warm, spongy grass. It doesn't crunch underfoot, accepts your weight as if welcoming you. No booming voice greets you. no trumpets, just the breeze, and the sound of work faint but steady, plows cutting through soil, tools clinking gently, laughter, and sure enough, people begin to appear. Some are strangers' souls in their prime, glowing with life. Some look like they could have walked straight out of a museum diorama. You half expect a tour guide to show up in khaki shorts, but then no, you recognize someone. You don't even know how. Time's foggy here. Memory is weird, but their face catches your breath in your throat. You don't run to them. You don't need to. They smile, nod, and keep working. You smile back, and suddenly, that's enough. The book glows once more. Final chapter, spell for entering the eternal field. It's less a command and more a blessing, the spell explains. Something vital in the field of reeds. You reap what you truly sowed in life, not what you claimed, not what you hoarded, what you gave, what you nurtured, what you meant. So if your life was spent lying and taking and hurting, this isn't your final stop. But if you grew kindness siven in poor soilet blossoms here, you begin to walk. You pass small homes, clean and sun-drenched, each one echoing with the music of lived joy. The locals greet you without hesitation. They already know who you are, not from fame, but from energy. The way you move, the weight or lack in your steps, that's how souls recognize each other here. There's no need for clocks, no need for rulers, no gods telling you what to do. They're here, sure Osiris, Hathor, Thoth lounging near the riverbanks, sipping drinks that smell like lotus and citrus. But they don't rule, they just coexist. A quirky fringe belief, barely footnoted in modern textbooks, suggests that in the field of reeds, souls get to remix the best parts of their earthly life. You could choose to relive your favorite hour, over and over, accept it. Never gets boring. Somehow, it always feels fresh. You test it. A memory flickers. A field you once walked, your hands trailing through the tops of tall grass. It manifests. You walk it again, and you feel it the moment. The body, the sunlight, but this time with clarity. No hunger, no deadline, no sorrow waiting off stage, just the now. Historians still argue whether Aru was meant to be literal or metaphor for moral reward, or an actual dimension you could end up in with the right combo of heart, weight, and magic words. But right now, it's as real as anything. You see a group harvesting papyrus together. A soul waves you over. You help, and it feels good. No pressure, no urgency, just right. You laugh without meaning to, and it doesn't echo back as some memory. It just is. At one point you pass a mirror of water, so still it might as well be glass. You catch your reflection, it's you, but clearer, stronger, softer. You see all the versions of yourself that journeyed through the Duarte frayed. Brave, stumbling, soaring, and you forgive them, all of them, even the one that hesitated back in the hall of judgment, even the one that wanted to run from a posh, because they got you here. You close the book. You don't need it anymore, not because you've outgrown it, but because you've lived it. Every spell, every test, every whispered hope of the scribes who etched it millennia ago, you honored them, you became them. Still, you tucked the book away. There might be another traveler who needs it. And you're starting to suspect that's what this place is truly for, not retirement, but continuity. You may rest, you may wander, you may play in the waters and nap under fruit trees, but one day, someone may arrive, confused, unsure, holding nothing but a blank scroll and wide eyes, and When they do, you'll be the one to meet them on the shore, with a gentle smile and the first page of a very old, very sacred book. And now, because you've earned it, the world slows down, not in that terrifying malice's dream way, but in the rhythm of contentment, of things as they're meant to be. Your feet trace a soft trail beside a canal that glistens like melted sapphire. The air hums gently, and each breath feels fuller than the last. You're not just existing anymore. You're thriving, flourishing, belonging. The field of reeds stretches on, not as a static map, but as something alive. Every step, the landscape reshapes to meet your needs. Not in a flashy, magic-queened way, but more like a gentle whisper that listens to your thoughts before you even speak them. You're not alone, either. You begin to notice familiar souls, not from your life, but from your journey. There's the boatman who steadied the bark during the river of knives. There's the guardian from the 5th hour who had eyes like night. Even a few strange figures you met for only moments, but who left impressions like thumbprints on your spirit. They're here too. Turns out, the field of reeds is communal. No fences, no borders. If someone needs help tilling a field, you help. If someone plays a flute under a fig tree, you listen. If someone just needs silence and your quiet company beside a stream, you sit. The Book of the Dead was obsessed with names, preserving them, chanting them, etching them into permanence. And now you understand why. Because in this place, to be remembered is to stay real, and to remember others. That's sacred magic. You begin a quiet ritual each morning, speaking the names of those you've loved, not just friends and family, but even people who shaped you in passing. A teacher, a rival, a stranger who showed kindness once when you didn't expect it. Each name sends out a ripple. Each ripple seems to return, somehow. That fringe theory we touched on last time, the one about remixing your life. Here's a delightful twist on it. In the field of reeds, you can visit the best parts of others' lives too. One afternoon, a stranger invites you to join her garden. She tells stories, her stories, as you weed onions and prune pomegranate trees. You laugh at her memories like they were your own, and just like that, they are. You're building new memories together, rooted in hers, branching into yours. EGYPTOLOGISTS. Still debate whether this shared paradise was metaphor, wishful thinking, or a subtle push for social harmony. But here, beneath this eternal sun, it doesn't matter. It works because Aru isn't heaven in the cloud harp sense. It's not some sterile luxury spa in the sky. It's not even about reward. It's about RECONNECTION, with nature, with memory, with time, with purpose. Let's talk about the animals for a moment. Yes, there are animals here. Cats, of course. That's non-negotiable. Dozens of them. Some dignified, like temple guardians. Others curled in the sun like sleepy loaves of bread. But there are also hippos napping in the shallows. Ibis birds sketching nonsense into the dirt with their long beaks. And even crocodiles, peaceful ones, who occasionally float by with a grin that says, "No hard feelings, yeah." A particularly curious monkey throws fruit at you from a tree. You throw one back. It's a whole thing. You pass a small shrine built not to a god, but to a scribe. Just a man, apparently, who copied books of the dead with care for decades. Souls stop there to leave papyrus flowers and whisper thanks. It moves you more than any golden statue ever did. Because in the field of reeds, greatness isn't measured by how loud your name echoes, but by how quietly it healed others. Now let's address a little known but juicy tidbit. There's a part of the book rarely translated, barely discussed, called The Spell for Crossing the Hidden Bridge. It describes a place beyond Aru, a realm for the restless luminous. It says, souls who find peace but still hunger for something more. It's vague, mysterious. The spell is unfinished, like someone started writing it, then vanished mid-sentence. Some think it's metaphorical. Others claim it's proof the ancients believed in spiritual evolution even after paradise. A next stage, and you're beginning to wonder, because there are moments when the wind tugs gently at your clothes, when the stars, yes, even in daytime, blink a little brighter, when the air smells faintly of lotus, and yet not quite. It feels like an invitation, but not yet. For now you remain. There's a child who wants to show you how he's learning to swim, a baker who insists you taste her fig cake, a musician who plays reed flutes, not for performance, but just to feel the sound in his chest. These are not distractions. These are the point. You laugh more freely now. You speak without fear. You nap in the grass, and the earth supports you like an old friend. And sometimes, when you dream here, you see flickers of the living world, faint impressions of the Nile, the temples, the priests still chanting your name during feasts. Someone, somewhere, has remembered you. That means you remain real. That means you can keep blooming. So you whisper your thanks first to the gods, then to the scribes, and finally to your past self, the one who dared to pick up the book, to follow the path, to walk the night, to weigh the heart, and to choose truth over comfort. The field of reeds is not the end of your story. It is where you begin to write it again. But now, from a place of light, there's a rhythm to eternity. You begin to feel it, not just hear it, but live inside it. It's not a drumbeat or a ticking clock. It's subtler, like the rustling of papyrus leaves in wind that hasn't blown yet. Time here doesn't pass, it ripens. You rise each day, though the sun barely shifts, and stretch into moments that feel soft-edged. You know when to act and when to rest without checking a sundial or being told. The field of reeds teaches you, gently, the sacred art of existing without chasing. Today, the Book of the Dead nudges you again. You almost forgot you were still holding it, not in a bad way. More like forgetting you're wearing your favorite sweater. It's become part of you. The leather cover is smoother now, the pages warmer. You open it, and the spell on the next page simply reads, Spell for speaking with the Netjeru. The gods, yes, you've seen them from afar, lounging near riverbanks, cloaked in animal forms, glowing like coals under skin. But now you're ready to meet them, and so they come. Not in thunder, not in golden chariots, just in presence. First, there's Isis. She doesn't introduce herself. She doesn't have to. You feel her. The hum in the air becomes a lullaby. She moves like someone who's always known the end of the story and never needed to spoil it. Her eyes are galaxies. Her smile has survived every grief. She places a hand on your shoulder, not to bless you, but to recognize you. You carried your heart well, she says. You try to speak. She hushes you, not cruelly, just maternally, like a lullaby folded into flesh. Then, Thoth, he appears in a shimmer of blue ink and starlight, holding a scroll longer than memory. His ibis head tilts as he considers you. Do you still have questions? He asks, genuinely curious. You do, so many. He gestures for you to walk beside him. You talk for what could be hours or eons. He doesn't give answers, just better questions. Why did you fear darkness when it made the stars visible? He asks at one point. You grin at the unfairness of it. Then Hathor, emerging from music itself. A fringe theory once suggested Hathor's paradise was a tavern where souls drank beer and sang songs for eternity. And honestly, that doesn't sound far off. She is joy embodied, warm and golden and glowing, like a sunlit dance floor. You do dance with her, and laugh until your sides hurt. Each god is different. Not rulers, here just elders, guides, lights, by which to read the book of yourself. Even Anubis. You meet him on the edge of a shadow, where the sunlight hesitates. His jackal form is still, patient. He doesn't approach. He waits for you to choose. When you do, he inclines his head. I have nothing to take from you, he says, only things to return. He hands you a memory, one you lost. It's a small one, maybe from childhood, the way you used to hum to yourself when afraid of the dark. It undoes you. He disappears before you can thank him. Later, you meet Matt again, not as a feather, but as a presence made of balance. She walks beside you silently. You both carry baskets filled with words, and you distribute them to birds who carry them skyward. Symbolic, probably. Meaningful, undeniably. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians saw the gods as literal beings or archetypal forces, living metaphors that represented emotions, seasons, virtues. But here, in the field of reeds, you don't need to pick sides. They're both and neither. They just are. There's one last figure, though not a god, not a scribe. A soul like Ubud, ancient, dusty, weathered like stone, left out too long in the desert. He sits by a canal and offers you a seat. You made it, he says. You nod. He pulls out a papyrus scroll. I was one of the first, he explains. One of the earliest authors of the book. We wrote it hoping someone would listen. Someone would believe. Not in gods, those were already known, but in the path. You ask if he's disappointed. He laughs. No, he says. Because you did. He unrolls the scroll. It's not a spell, it's a poem. A fragment of something never finished. He hands it to you. You finish it. Your hands tremble as you take it, because you realize something. The Book of the Dead was never meant to be a static guide. It wasn't some spiritual IKEA manual. It was indeed a living document, one shaped by every traveler who walks the duet, one expanded by every soul brave enough to reach. Aru, you will write your page. Your journey will become someone else's. Spell. And when you pass the book to the next wanderer, it will be just a little thicker, a little richer. Because of you, as the section closes, you stand at the edge of the canal once more. The sun dips, though it never quite sets. You close your eyes, and you speak not to anyone in particular, just to the sky. I am still becoming, and somewhere, in another world, a scribe smiles in their sleep. You sit by the water, toes gently skimming the surface. The reflection that stares back isn't the same person who began this journey. Your posture has changed, more grounded. Your eyes carry a kind of stillness that only comes from walking. With gods weighing your heart and holding silence as a friend. Tonight there's a gathering, a quiet one, a shared hush. Like the moments before a play begins, souls from every corner of the field of reeds drift toward a great stone amphitheater, etched with stories older than language. The scent of lotus and roasted barley lingers in the air. It's not a feast, not a ritual. It's a remembering dot at the center. An obelisk glows with inscriptions. But these are not the old hymns. They are fresh carved by the newly arrived. The Book of the Dead isn't just read here. It's written. Each soul that reaches paradise is invited to inscribe one truth. Not a name, not a boast, just one thing they've learned. Yours is still blank. You're nervous. What could you say that isn't already known? So, you wait. You listen. A woman in a golden robe, her voice like wind through reeds steps forward first. She carves her truth. Kindness survives death. Next, a quiet man, a farmer by the look of his calloused hands. Joy takes root in stillness. Then, a small child. We're not alone in the dark. You watch, heart full. These aren't grand revelations, they're soft ones, but they ripple through the crowd like warm air through silk. When your turn comes, you step forward slowly. Your fingers tremble as they grip the chisel. You breathe and carve. The journey matters more than the judgment. Silence follows. Then the tiniest nods, like petals falling from an invisible tree. You step back, heart beating with a rhythm that feels eternal. But before the gathering disperses, something odd happens. A new figure arrives. He's different. Young not in years, but in soul. Confused, blinking like someone who just opened their eyes underwater. He holds a book. A copy of the Book of the Dead, but newer. Bound in synthetic leather, maybe printed in the last 20 years. You recognize. It's one of those museum gift shop editions. Glossy pages. Modern translation. He looks at you, eyes wide. Is this the right place? He asks. And suddenly it clicks. This is a new soul. One who died in your world. A recent arrival. And he's carrying a version of the book you once held. The bridge is still open. You nod slowly and gesture for him to sit. Around you, the other souls shift, watching with gentle curiosity. He asks if this is heaven. No, you say it's truth. He laughs nervously. That sounds like a lot. It is, you reply, but not all at once. You begin to explain not everything, but enough to ease his fear. You tell him about the river, the gates, the weighing. He winces when you describe the crocodile goddess. Understandable, and then he says something that changes everything. I didn't believe in any of this. You pause, and yet, here he is. A fringe theory among some Egyptologists whispers about accidental initiates. People who pass through the ancient trials not by study or faith, but by instinct, by resonance, as if some part of their soul remembered how to journey the duat, even if their brain called it myth. This young man, he's proof. I read the book. For a college paper, he admits. I didn't expect it to work. You smile. That's how most good magic happens. He asks if he can stay. You tell him only if you're willing to walk. He nods. Somewhere behind him, a guide is already forming perhaps a jackal, perhaps a song. The duet awaits, but you stay seated by the water. The ripples have changed, widened. The field of reeds has always been a destination, but now, it's also a starting line for someone else. You reflect on how far you've come, from stepping into darkness, to being the light for someone else now. You understand why the book never really ends, because the journey isn't linear. It's a cycle. You walk it, you survive it, you guide someone else through it, and maybe that's how eternity stays alive, through shared stories, through past tortures, through you. Historians still argue whether the Book of the Dead was ever truly meant for everyone, or just the wealthy elite who could afford scribes. But here, class, status, lineage, none of that matters. Only your courage, only your heart, only your willingness to walk forward. Even when the path is made of shadows, later, as twilight deepens not night, just a softer shade of day you find. A quiet corner of the reeds where papyrus grows tall and whispers, lullabies in a breeze older than memory. You lie back, you look up, and you see something strange. Stars, real stars. They weren't visible before, and now they are, as if the sky itself is shifting, as if something new is beginning. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to dream forward. You wake, or maybe you simply shift into a moment that feels like dawn. Not the blinding kind that floods your bedroom on a workday, but the gentle kind, where gold spills slowly across the landscape like spilled tea on parchment. In the field of reeds, even waking is poetic today. Something feels different. The papyrus rustles in a different rhythm. The birds hum tunes with sharper edges. And in your chest, a question begins to bloom, not fear, not doubt, just curiosity. What comes after paradise? You glance at the Book of the Dead, resting by your side. Its pages flutter, though there's no wind, and then you hear it. A name, your name, spoken once, quietly, as though someone far away just remembered you. It echoes, out loud, but through your being, like a thread tugging gently at your center. You stand. The name is spoken again. It's not a command. It's an invitation. You walk, not because you must, but because something in you says it's time. Along the way, you pass familiar figures, souls you've met, gods who nod. Even Thoth, that cosmic librarian, pauses in his eternal bookkeeping to raise a feathery quill in greeting. You sense approval, but also a hint of mischief, as if he's saying, "You're about to learn something I can't quite write down." Eventually you reach a border. It's not a wall, not a gate, just a ... Thinning, the reeds grow sparse. The light becomes cooler. Time, if it ever existed here, stretches ... and then beyond. The Vela figure steps forward. It's you, well, not exactly. It's the version of you who didn't make the journey, the part that stayed behind, the one who clung to logic, to fear, to doubt, a shade, but not a threat, just ... Incomplete, they look confused. You, as you once were, where am I? They ask. You answer gently, halfway. They frown, halfway to where? You consider and say, to becoming. The figure dissolves, not in terror, not in drama, just in peace. You feel them merge into you, not possession integration. The part of yourself you had forgotten to forgive is now home. That's when the new chapter begins. Literally, the book in your hand burns not painfully, but with light. Words unwrite themselves. New ones form. It's writing you now. Not your past, not your sins, your potential. You glance down and read, spell for returning with the dawn, ... wait, returning. You sit. The grass here is short and silver green. The horizon is wide, and you realize something that's both thrilling and terrifying. You don't have to stay here. The field of reeds is not a cage. It's a gift, but you're not required to unwrap it forever. You can go back to earth, not reincarnated as a dung beetle. Don't worry, you're not being punished. This isn't karma, it's choice. The Book of the Dead doesn't just guide souls to paradise, can guide them back. But why would anyone want that? Well, maybe you've got unfinished business. Maybe someone back home needs a whisper, a dream, a brush of wind across their cheek while they cry. Maybe you left behind questions. Or maybe, just maybe, you want to share what you've learned. There's a ritual, of course there is. This is ancient Egypt. Nothing happens without a bit of drama and a few well-placed words. You find a clearing. In the center, a bowl of clear water, a mirror of both surface and soul. The book instructs you. Speak the spell of return. Your voice is calm. Steady, you say. May my car cross back over the horizon. May my bar ride the wings of the heron. May my name be whispered in the wind. May I walk the land once more, not to fear, but to remember. The bowl trembles. A breeze rises. You don't float. You fall upward. Colors collapse into you. Time folds. The stars blink and you are between them. And suddenly you're back. But not quite. Not as a baby. Not as a ghost. As something in between. A presence. A guide. A whisperer between worlds. You exist in dreams. Now in hunches. In those moments when someone pauses at a crossroad and just knows which way to turn. Even though no logic says they should. You're part of that. You, the traveler of the duot, the survivor of the trials, the one who saw their heart weighed and came out whole. You are the spell now. Historians still argue whether the Book of the Dead was magic or metaphor. But here you are, blurring both, walking in dreams, resting in memory, humming lullabies into ears that have forgotten where they first heard them. You see the young man again, the one who followed you into the field of reeds. He's alive in the world now, awake, but he keeps the book near his bed. You smile. He dreams of you sometimes. He doesn't know why, but he always wakes feeling steadier, safer, as if something ancient walked beside him through the night. And it did. You did. You still do so now. You dwell in both worlds, the living and the remembered. You're the footnote in the scholar's paper, the image on the museum wall, the breath before someone says, I wonder what happens when we die. You're the answer and the question, and the soft silence that follows. And you're not done yet. There's one more spell to cast. The spell is simple, not in the way that baking a cake is simple, in the way that a single drop of rain is simple, until you realize it's part of an ocean. You are both drop and tide now. The Book of the Dead once gave you directions. Now it gives you purpose. In your hands, the pages are translucent, not because they're thin, but because they're turning into windows. Through them, you glimpse the lives of others, not just ancient souls, but modern ones. A woman in Cairo who lights a candle without knowing why. A teenager in Boston who doodles scarabs in the margins of her math homework. A museum night guard who hums to himself, never realizing he's repeating a spell of protection that dates back 3,000 years. You're with them, not as a ghost, not even as memory, as presence. Each night they dream, and in their dreams, you leave, breadcrumbs. Symbols, songs, that golden blue hue of Nile twilight, the papyrus rustle of ancient verses whispered through the dark, and some of them follow. Some wake up and type things like ancient Egyptian dreams meaning into their search. Bar at 2:14 a.m. Some dig deeper, some find the book, and the cycle begins again. This is the spell of legacy. It's not written in hieroglyphs or blood. It's written in curiosity, passed from soul to soul, not because it must but because it wants to. There's an old fringe belief, buried deep in the archives of Egyptology, that the true purpose of the Book of the Dead was not to get the soul into paradise. It it was to teach the living how to live like they remembered they would die. That's not dark, it's luminous. You begin to understand the weight behind that. It's why the spells are so specific, why they tell you how to walk, what to say, which god to greet, and with what kind of bread in hand. It wasn't superstition, it was rehearsal, a way of life, a practice run for eternity. You, the dreamer, now returned. Begin to speak this truth gently into the hearts of those who will listen. You appear to a child, not as yourself, but as a glowing ibis with eyes like quiet stars. She laughs in her sleep and wakes up wanting to be an archaeologist. You place a memory inside a painting, a soft suggestion in a tour guide's voice, a pause between podcast words that gives the listener goosebumps. For no reason, the gods don't interfere. They watch. Some smile, Anubis smirks, mutters something about the long game, and fades back into the duat. Even Amit, the devourer of unworthy hearts, sighs a little bored, maybe. You haven't sent her anyone in a while. You remember what it felt like. The first time your heart was weighed, the silence, the scale, the fear. Now, you understand, the point wasn't just the judgment, it was the awareness, the remembering. The entire afterlife is built around this idea. When you live like your soul will one day be read like a book, you write better chapters. Even in life, you were writing spells without knowing it. Every time you showed mercy, every time you told a story, every time you remembered someone's name after they were gone. The book of the dead is not over. It's not even done being written, because now you're the scribe. You've become Thoth's apprentice in a way that has nothing to do with ink and everything to do with intent. You carry the essence of Matnot, just balance and order, but grace, the kind that hums through wind chimes, or lives in the space between your heartbeat and someone else's laughter. You're not haunting people, you're guiding them, protecting them, inspiring them, and still you return. Time, to the field of reeds, to sit, to rest, to catch your breath in eternity. You see familiar faces, the woman in the golden robe, the farmer with his quiet wisdom, even the child, who now runs barefoot and wild through endless sunlit grass. They wave. You wave back, and together you talk about dreams. One night, while seated under a pomegranate tree that never stops blooming, a god joins you, not a famous one, just a minor deity of forgotten things. He hands you something. It's a scroll, your scroll, but it's no longer called the Book of the Dead. It's titled the Book of Remembering. You smile, because that's what it always was, not a guide to death, a guide to what matters. Historians still argue whether ancient Egyptians truly believed all of it, or if some of it was just comforting theater. Honestly, who cares? What matters is, it works. You feel your name, your true name, pulse softly within the scroll. A vibration that says, yes, you made it, and you made it matter. You exhale, but you're not fading. You're resonating. Your story continues. Just here, but there, in them. The ones who listen. The ones who feel that strange tug toward pyramids, toward jackals, toward stars that look like they remember your name. And when they ask, why am I drawn to this? You'll be the whisper that answers, because you've been here before. Back in the field of reeds, the reeds themselves sing. Not in a melodic top 40 kind of way, no auto-tune, no catchy hook. This is something older, a vibration you don't hear with your ears so much as feel behind your ribcage. It hums in your bones like a lullaby someone once sang to you long before you were born. The field is vast, stretching endlessly, yet you never feel lost. There are no maps, no GPS, just instinct and memory. Today, you return to the hall of two truths. No one summoned you. No one has to anymore. But you feel a pull. It's not judgment you seek. It's perspective as you step through the familiar colonnade columns, stretching like frozen trees. You notice something new. The scales are still there, perfectly balanced, feather and heart at rest. But the room is brighter. Osiris is present, seated on his dark throne, wrapped in linen and silence. His eyes glow softly, as if illuminated from within by stars. You stand before him, and this time he doesn't ask for your name. He knows. Why have you returned? He says, you consider lying, you consider joking, but you don't. I want to understand, you say. Osiris tilts his head. Understand what? The in-between, you reply. The space between living and remembering. He leans forward, and for a moment, you remember that this is a God who was torn apart and stitched back together, who rules not from power, but from experience. He knows the price of transition. You've crossed the duat, he says. You've returned to the land of the living. You've become more than memory. What more do you need? And you answer, to help others do the same. For a moment, Osiris says nothing. Then he raises a hand. A ripple travels through the air. And suddenly the hall is filled with figures, not gods, souls, souls who've paused along their journey, souls who fear the weight of the scale, souls clinging to the book of the dead, like it's a lifeline rather than a lantern. You recognize some of them, the war general who spent more time killing than praying, the scribe who burned records to hide corruption, the mother who lost her child and never forgave the gods. They are not monsters, they are not saints, they are simply uncertain. They hover on the edge of becoming, and now they look to you. Osiris speaks. Guide them, if you will. The way is open. You step forward, not as a judge, as a storyteller. You begin with the crocodile dung sunscreen, because why not start with something absurd? It makes them laugh. Laughter lowers walls. Then you tell them about your first step into the duat, about the river of knives, about the ibis with eyes like hourglasses, about the heart scale, and the realization that truth isn't just honest, wholeness, and you watch as, one by one, the souls begin to soften. They open their palms. They place their hearts upon the scale. The feather of mat never changes, but their hearts do, not because they're suddenly pure, but because they accept themselves. Even the war general weeps not from guilt, but from recognition. He sees the cost of his choices and does not run from it. The scale balances again and again and again, and in the silence that follows, you feel something shift. The book in your hands grows warmer. Pages you never saw before begin to write. Themselves, new spells, spells of forgiveness, spells for guiding others without condescension, spells for remembering names that were erased. Historians still argue whether the Book of the Dead was meant to evolve, whether scribes were allowed to add their own prayers, their own tweaks. Some believe the book was a living text. Others think it was sacred and fixed. You, however, know the truth. It grows with the reader, because every soul walks a slightly different path. No two duets are the same. No two hearts beat with the same regrets or hopes. And so, You become a kind of editor, not censoring, curating, helping others tell their story within the sacred framework and the gods. They're surprisingly chill about it. Thoth grins and says, "The ink is infinite." Anubis shrugs, "As long as no one's skipping the weighing part." Even Sekhmet, usually all claws and solar flares, purrs in amusement. Let them try to understand us. It keeps things interesting. You realize the book is no longer just yours. You've made it portable. Sharable. You've turned it into bedtime stories. Not the sugar-coated kind, the real kind. With crocodiles and chaos and moonlit rivers, but also with forgiveness, with learning, with transformation. You tell these stories to the ones who hesitate at the edge of the do-it. You tell them to the living, too, through symbols, dreams, and sometimes through voices like this one. That's right, this one. Me. I'm part of the spell. 2. See, maybe you didn't just stumble into this story tonight. Maybe your name was whispered. Maybe this was your invitation, because here you are listening, imagining, remembering, not just some dusty mythology, but something true, something that feels like it belongs to you. Maybe you've walked these halls before. Maybe your heart remembers the scales. Maybe you've already crossed the dot, and this life is your return. The book is open, the ink is warm. Your story isn't finished, so tell it wisely. You sit by the Nile, again not the river you knew in life, but the echo of it here in eternity. Its waters shimmer with more than light. They shimmer with meaning. This is where your story began, remember. The banks of a living, breathing Egypt. Mud beneath your sandals, the scent of date palms in the air. Papyrus reeds, whispering secrets only you could hear. But now you see the Nile from both sides. Life and afterlife. Beginning and becoming. And something is calling from its depths. You dip your hand into the water. It's warm, not with heat, but with memory. Ripples bloom outward, and each one holds a vision, snapshots from a world you once walked. A child tying amulets onto a cat's collar for protection. A priest smudging incense over a dying man's bed. A woman whispering spells into her daughter's ear at night, passing down magic disguised as lullabies. You hadn't realized how often the Book of the Dead was spoken aloud, whispered in kitchens, chanted, under stars, sung like lullabies, into the ears of children who would forget. And someday, remember, these weren't just rituals, they were anchors. They kept the world from unraveling. And now that you're on the other side, you understand why Matt isn't just a goddess, or even a feather. She's alignment, the tuning fork of the universe, and the Book of the Dead. It's the sheet music. You're not just a reader anymore. You're a musician in a grand orchestra, improvising your verse while keeping time with eternity, and still, you remember the fringe, scholarsome, eccentric 19th century German Egyptologist who once insisted that the entire Book of the Dead was a coded psychological map. He claimed the spells described inner alchemy, not literal monsters or trials. People laughed at him, but now, you're not so sure he was wrong, because in every spell you see something internal, a fear, a flaw, a longing. Every crocodile-headed demon is just a shadow version of yourself. Every plea to Thoth is really a prayer for clarity. You begin to notice the patterns, spell 27, for not dying again in the afterlife. That's just a metaphor for self-sabotage, spell 44, to remember one's name. That's about identity, not labels. Spell 125, the famous heart-weighing scene. That's you deciding if you can live with who you've become. And if you can't, You rewrite. That's the secret the book never says out loud. You can always rewrite, not because mistakes didn't happen, but because you're allowed to evolve. So here, beside the Nile of memory, you pick up a stylus, not a literal one-year. Tool is thought, intention, imagination. You start crafting a new spell. Not in ink, but in story, it begins. For the one who listens at night, it's a charm for those wide-eyed midnight hours when reality slips a little and old questions come back around. Where do we go? What happens after? Why do I feel like I've been here before? You write it like a bedtime story. You include a joke about hippos, a warning about scorpions, a promise that if you dream of an ibis tonight, it's probably Thoth checking in. And most importantly, you leave space at the end for them to finish it, because you've learned something crucial out here in the Duat. No one gets handed a finished spell. The best ones are collaborations. You've also started teaching, not like a professor, more like a camp counselor with cosmic authority. You show souls how to reframe their stories. You help them see the monster in the mirror as the scared part of themselves that just needs kindness. You help them add one more line to their spell, something hopeful, something new, and as you do, the entire book changes, not just yours, everyone's. Because, like the Nile, it's not a static scroll. It flows. Once it was carved on tomb walls, then written on papyrus, then murmured into dreams. Now it's being woven into something else. Stories, podcasts, sleepy, bedtime videos about Egyptian magic and the afterlife. You laugh at the thought how strange the gods must find TikToks, but you're not mocking, you're marveling, because that's what the book was always meant to be, passed on, smuggled through time inside culture, curiosity, and the subconscious. It doesn't matter if people remember the name of spell 151B. What matters is they remember that death isn't the end. It's a door, and you're the welcome mat, the gentle whisper on the other side saying, "It's okay, you made it. Let's begin." You turn back toward the water. Another ripple blooms. Someone is dreaming again. Someone is searching. You smile because you're ready. The book is open. The page is blank. Time to write the next spell. The Duat shifts, not with earthquakes or fanfare, but like a dream transitioning scenes without warning. One moment you're by the Nile, toes in the soft silt of eternity, and the next, you're walking through a desert made of stars, no sand. Here, just constellations beneath your feet. Orion greets you with a sideways nod. The scorpion arches its tail with flair. The skies below and above mirrored, infinite dot. Welcome to the celestial chambers. Not every soul gets to see this place. It's a realm few talk about in the scrolls. Even the Book of the Dead only hints at it, in riddles and elliptical metaphors. But here you are, walking through a gallery of eternity, where the gods hang their dreams like paintings. Everything shimmers, everything breathes. You pass a floating doorway made of lapis and turquoise. Inside is a room of doors that lead to other rooms of doors. It's unclear if anyone ever chose one, or if the choosing is the point. A floating voice chuckles. Don't overthink it. You suspect it's Thoth. Sounds like him. That snarky ibis, always lurking. You ask what this place is, and the answer floats back. This is where forgotten spells go to be remembered. You pause. That sounds poetic, but also haunting. Then you see them, rows upon rows of orphaned lines, single verses, half-finished incantations, fragments of longing etched in golden hieroglyphs, just waiting for someone to finish the sentence, waiting for belief. This is what scholars really argue about, whether the Book of the Dead was fixed canon or if every scribe, every soul, could shape it with their truth. Some call it blasphemy, others liberation. But now, looking at these abandoned spells floating through cosmic mist, you get it. They're not abandoned. They're offers, invitations to complete the magic. One spell drifts toward you. It reads, "So that I may pass unseen through," and then it ends. What comes next? Through fear, through doubt, through the crushing weight of things unsaid. You take a breath and whisper, ... Through the heavy silence of not knowing who I am, the hieroglyphs glow. The spell accepts your offering, just like that. It becomes whole again. The room shivers with quiet joy. Another spell drifts up. May my heart know the difference between, and again it trails off. You add ... regret and wisdom. Boom. A pulse of warmth. You're getting good at this, suddenly. You understand why you're here. This is the work. The Book of the Dead isn't a cheat code or a tourist map. It's a conversation across time, between ancient scribes and dreamers, like you, between the gods and those brave enough to listen, between who you were and who you're becoming. And in this moment, you become not just a reader, not even just a writer, but a restorer, a librarian of lost magic. You sort the fragments, you hum the missing tunes, you stitch together half-spoken blessings with new endings, and with each completed spell, the duat breathes easier. It's subtle but undeniable. The river flows more freely, the stars shine brighter. Even Anubis seems a little less stressed. The gods are paying attention. They don't interfere. They're more management than hands-on, but they watch with curiosity. Isis sends a feather drifting your way, a sign of approval. Bast curls around your ankles, purring with cosmic delight. Even Sekhmet offers a slow blink of something like ... respect. You return it with a wink. Don't get used to me behaving. She chuckles. Wouldn't dream of it. You're starting to realize just how layered this afterlife is. Yes, there are fields of paradise. Yes, there are gates and guardians and symbolic snakes galore. But there's also this other layer, one no one talks about because it doesn't fit cleanly on a wall carving or inside a papyrus roll. It's the part where you heal not just yourself, but the magic itself, where the spells need you as much as you need them. It's humbling, also a little hilarious. You imagine telling someone back in the land of the living, "Hey, when I die, I'll be fixing typos in the afterlife." But it's more than that. And you know it. You're making meaning. You're turning leftover fragments into full-bodied truths. And then, just when you feel like you've got the hang of this, something new happens. A spell floats toward you that's not incomplete. It's perfectly written. Every line pristine, every glyph glowing. But it's wrong, not evil, not twisted, just outdated. It speaks of fear, of punishment, of silencing desire to achieve peace. You hesitate, rewrite it. Can you rewrite it? You sit with the question. This is where things get sticky. Ancient texts, sacred traditions, they're not just paper and ink. They're people's beliefs, their comfort, their fear, their truth. But truth evolves, and the book, if it is to live, must evolve too. So you breathe in and gently begin. Peace is not the absence of chaos, ... but the presence of understanding within it. The old spell fades. Your new words take root, and somewhere, someone will read that line centuries from now, thinking it was always there, and maybe it always was. You step back, you've done enough for tonight. The stars beneath your feet swirl, shifting back into water, into earth. The field of reeds calls you home. You walk with quiet pride, the book cradled under your arm, still unfinished, but somehow more whole than ever. You return to the field of reeds, not with the cautious tread of a newcomer, but with the slow, confident pace of someone who knows their way home. It's quieter now, not empty just, still like the world holding its breath. Golden barley rustles, under a breeze that carries the scent of lotus and history. The sky is bluer than it has any right to be. A heron flies past, trailing ribbons of light in its wake. You smile, because you realize something simple but powerful. The afterlife isn't just a destination, it's a reflection, and you've changed. You're not the same soul who once stumbled wide-eyed through the gates of fire, or tried to remember which direction was north during that crocodile chase. To be fair, panic messes with your sense of direction. No. Now you move like someone who belongs, not because you passed the tests, but because you understand them. You walk past familiar spirits' faces you once feared, now companions, even Amit. The devourer raises a paw in greeting as she lounges in a patch of celestial sun. You give her a little wave. No hard feelings. She growls fondly. Next time, leave the snack wrappers outside the scales. You chuckle, noted. You sit near the tree where you first met the scribe who gave you that initial nudge into the mysteries. He's not there anymore, but his stylus lies on the grass, the ink still wet. A reminder, the work continues. You feel the book inside you now, not just the version you read or rewrote, but the living, breathing essence of it. It's no longer something you carry, it's who you are, and just when you're sinking into the peace of it, a whisper brushes your ear. Not from a god, not from a ghost, from someone alive, a voice in the world of the living. They're reading a passage, a bedtime story, a spell. You listen, and it's one you wrote. It's your line, your magic, echoing across the veil, so that I may know myself, even in the dark. A child hears it, murmurs it, dreams by it. You feel it ripple through the do it like a stone dropped into the Nile. This is what no one tells you. You don't disappear. Not if your words linger. Not if your love threads itself into a spell or a story or a song historians argue. They love to argue whether the book of the dead was meant for individual use or communal ritual, whether it was exclusive to elites or available to all. But here, in this timeless light, the answer seems obvious: yes. It was all those things, and now it's something more, because now it's yours, not just the text, but the legacy, your part, of a lineage that spans from papyrus to podcast, from tomb wall to bedtime playlist, from ancient Thebes to someone's dimly lit bedroom in 2025. You imagine them lying there, headphones on, eyes wide, brain buzzing with crocodile-headed demons, and heart-weighing trials, and you send a whisper back, don't worry, you'll get through it. The field of reeds hums, with quiet laughter. Someone once said, heaven is a place where you're remembered at your best. Maybe, but you think heaven is also a place where you get to remember not just who you were, but who you're still becoming. There's work to do, not the kind that grinds you down, the kind that builds, heals, echoes. So you rise, the last grain of barley sifts through your fingers, and you speak. One last spell for the night. May those who seek not find answers but better questions. The book glows. The sky darkens, not in warning, but in invitation. And far above, a new star appears, faint, flickering, but steady. Your name, written in light. A reminder for anyone who dares look up. Someone made it through, someone remembered, and if they did, maybe you will too. You feel it before you see it. The end, it doesn't come with trumpets, or celestial parades, or a booming voice yelling congratulations. Though, admit it, that would have been kind of nice. No, this ending is soft. Like waking from a dream you don't want to leave. Like waves pulling gently at your ankles as you stand on the shoreline of something vast and eternal. You're back at the edge of the river. The same river you crossed long ago, when this whole journey started. Only now it looks different. Or maybe you do. The papyrus boat that brought you here bobs lightly in the reeds, as if it never left. The oars are right where you left them. There's even a small snack basket, someone's idea of a joke. Clearly, Anubis stands nearby, arms crossed, ears twitching with amusement. You coming, you hesitate, you faced monsters, solved riddles, been weighed, tested, and turned inside out. You've rewritten ancient magic and been haunted by half-finished spells, and now you're being asked to leave. Your lips part, unsure. Do I have to, you ask? He shrugs. No, but the living world's still spinning. Someone out there might need your story. That. You look out at the horizon. It's not just light and sky, any Marit's possibility. Memory, time coiled like a golden serpent. You step toward the boat and pause, because suddenly you see them. Not the gods, not the guardians, but others like you. Souls who walked this same path, who stumbled through judgment and rewrote spells and whispered wisdom into the folds of starlight. Some of their names you recognize. Queens, tomb painters, midwives, dreamers. Most you don't, but all of them nod in recognition. You realize now, this wasn't your journey alone. It never was. The Book of the Dead. It's not just a guide, it's a conversation. And you've become a verse in it, not the first, not the last, but essential. A small child laughs in the distance. Maybe in your memory, maybe in someone else's future. Either way it's enough. You climb into the boat. The water glows. The sky darkens to indigo, and with one last glance at the field of reeds, those endless golden waves, you begin to row, not away but forward, toward whatever comes next. And now, just let yourself float. No more crocodiles, no riddles or gates or fiery trials. Only stillness, only breath. You've traveled far tonight through tombs and temples, through scrolls of ink and silence, through stars and underworlds, and memories that never really belonged to anyone. But now you can rest. Close your eyes, feel the quiet settle into your bones. The kind of quiet that holds answers and mysteries. You've carried a heavy book through this night, but it feels lighter now, not because the pages are gone, but because you've made peace with not needing to turn them all at once. Let that comfort you. You don't need to solve everything tonight. You don't need to remember every name or decode every glyph. You just need to be to breathe in and out. Maybe you're imagining soft reeds brushing your skin, or the warm lap of water against your toes, or the echo of a goddess's laugh. Distant but fond, that's good. Let the feeling stretch. Let your heart beat slow. The do-art is behind you for now. But the truth it gave you stays. You are more than flesh, more than memory, more than fear. You are story, you are spell, you are stardust written into myth. So sleep now, traveler. The boat will carry you, the stars will keep watch, and tomorrow, well, ... you'll probably wake up still wondering what the deal was with that talking scarab. But for now, let go. Let the magic linger and dream yourself whole.